"Remove her from this courtroom immediately." Those words echoed through the quiet halls of the state courthouse, spoken with confidence by a man who believed he understood exactly who belonged and who did not. But the person standing in front of him was not someone looking for attention. She was not someone trying to create a disturbance. She was a woman who carried decades of dedication, knowledge, and service behind a calm expression that revealed almost nothing about her story. Her name was Olivia Bennett. On that morning, she entered the courthouse dressed simply, carrying a small folder of documents and walking through the same doors where thousands of people had searched for justice. She did not arrive with a large group of people. She did not have a visible symbol of authority. There was no immediate sign that she was about to become the most important person in that building. To anyone watching from the outside, she appeared to be an ordinary visitor. But appearances rarely tell the complete story. The courthouse was already active with the familiar rhythm of a busy morning. Attorneys moved through the halls. Staff members organized paperwork. Citizens waited for their scheduled hearings. Every person inside carried a different reason for being there. Some came seeking answers. Some came seeking fairness. Some came simply hoping the legal system would hear them. Olivia understood those emotions better than most people. For more than 25 years, she had dedicated her life to the law. She had studied its principles, defended its purpose, and worked to ensure that justice was not only written in documents but also felt by the people who needed it most. Yet on this particular morning, before anyone knew her history, she experienced something many people face every day. She was judged before she was understood. Officer Daniel Whitmore stood near the entrance, responsible for maintaining order inside the courthouse. He had spent years believing that his role required him to make quick decisions. He watched people enter and leave. He decided who needed additional questions and who could continue forward. But sometimes quick decisions can create conclusions that are not based on the full truth. When Olivia approached, Officer Whitmore looked at the situation through a narrow view. He saw a black woman without the visible signs of status he expected. He did not see the years of legal experience behind her. He did not see the countless hours she had spent studying the law. He did not see the responsibility she would soon carry as the state's newest chief judge. He only saw what was in front of him at that moment. Olivia noticed the judgment in his voice, but she did not respond with anger. She did not raise her voice. She did not try to prove herself through emotion. Instead, she remained composed because she understood something powerful about justice. The truth does not become stronger when it is shouted. It becomes stronger when it is revealed. Imagine standing in a place built to protect fairness, only to discover that someone inside that place has already decided your worth before hearing your story. Imagine having the ability to change everything with a single sentence, but choosing patience because the lesson matters more than the moment. That was the choice Olivia made. She could have immediately explained who she was. She could have revealed the position she was about to hold. But she chose silence. Not because she was powerless, because she knew the truth would eventually speak for itself. And as Officer Whitmore continued believing that Olivia Bennett did not belong in that courtroom, he had no idea that the woman he was trying to remove was the very person who would soon represent the justice system he served. The morning inside the state courthouse continued, but the atmosphere around Olivia Bennett had changed. What began as a simple arrival had become a moment where assumptions and reality stood on opposite sides of the same hallway. Officer Daniel Whitmore remained convinced that he understood the situation. In his mind, he was simply protecting the order of the courtroom. He believed his role gave him the authority to decide who belonged and who did not. But he did not realize that the person he was questioning understood the law more deeply than almost anyone in that building. Olivia stood quietly, holding her folder of documents while the noise of the courthouse moved around her. Attorneys walked past carrying case files. Court employees prepared for the day ahead. People waited for their names to be called. To everyone else, it looked like another ordinary morning. But for Olivia, this moment represented something she had seen throughout her entire career. A person could be judged within seconds, long before anyone understood their story. For more than 25 years, Olivia had worked inside the legal system. She had seen people enter courtrooms carrying fear, uncertainty, and hope. She understood that the justice system was not only built on laws written in books. It was built on how those laws were applied to real people in real moments. That belief shaped everything she did. It was why she remained calm when Officer Whitmore questioned her. She knew that reacting emotionally would only distract from the greater lesson. Officer Whitmore noticed her confidence, but he misunderstood where it came from. He expected frustration. He expected an argument. Instead, he saw patience. That patience confused him because it did not match the image he had created in his mind. Olivia was not trying to challenge his authority. She was simply waiting for the truth to become clear. Imagine spending decades learning the meaning of justice, only to stand in a courthouse where someone refuses to see you clearly. Imagine having the ability to end the misunderstanding instantly, but choosing restraint because you understand that a person's actions reveal more than their words. That was Olivia Bennett's choice. She could have explained her entire history. She could have mentioned the legal victories, the years of service, and the position she was about to assume. But she understood that recognition gained only after revealing power was not the same as genuine respect. Officer Whitmore continued asking questions, unaware that every moment was revealing more about both of them. He was revealing how quickly assumptions could influence decisions. Olivia was revealing the strength of remaining composed when others expected a reaction. The contrast between them became clearer with every passing minute. One person believed authority came from controlling the situation. The other understood authority came from responsibility and fairness. A nearby court employee briefly looked toward Olivia's documents, noticing details that seemed familiar. The name on the paperwork carried a significance that had not yet been fully understood. There was something about Olivia Bennett that suggested she was not simply another visitor entering the courthouse. But before anyone could connect the pieces, the misunderstanding continued. Officer Whitmore still believed he was removing someone who did not belong. He did not know that the woman standing in front of him was connected to the future of the entire state justice system. He did not know that the same courtroom he was trying to protect was about to recognize her in a completely different way. And he certainly did not know that the quiet woman he underestimated was carrying a truth powerful enough to change the entire room. The quiet tension inside the courthouse continued to grow, but Olivia Bennett remained exactly the same person she had been from the moment she walked through the doors. She did not become impatient. She did not allow frustration to control her actions. She simply stood there with the same calm expression, carrying a lifetime of experience that nobody around her could see. Officer Daniel Whitmore continued believing he was dealing with someone who needed to understand his authority. He saw his position inside the courthouse as a responsibility to maintain order, but he had forgotten that true justice was not only about rules. It was also about understanding the people those rules were meant to serve. Olivia had spent more than 25 years learning that lesson. Before becoming the state's newest chief judge, she had built her career one decision at a time. She was once a young law student who believed the legal system could become stronger when people inside it chose fairness over assumption. She spent years studying court procedures, working with communities, and understanding the challenges faced by people who entered courtrooms searching for answers. She knew that every person who walked into a courthouse carried a story that others could not immediately see. Some carried uncertainty. Some carried fear. Some carried years of struggles that were invisible to everyone around them. That understanding shaped the way Olivia approached the law. She never believed justice was simply about having authority. She believed justice was about using authority responsibly. As Officer Whitmore continued questioning her, Olivia remembered the countless moments throughout her career when people had been judged before their circumstances were understood. She had seen how quickly assumptions could influence decisions. She had seen how important it was for those with power to remember that every person deserved to be heard. That was why she remained patient. She was not waiting because she lacked confidence. She was waiting because she understood the value of allowing the truth to reveal itself. Imagine dedicating your entire life to protecting fairness, only to find yourself standing in a courtroom where someone believes you do not belong. Imagine having the ability to announce your identity and instantly change everyone's opinion, but choosing not to because you want people to understand something deeper. That was Olivia's choice. Her silence was not surrender. It was strength. Officer Whitmore noticed that she was different from the people he usually encountered. She did not react with anger. She did not challenge him with emotion. Instead, she responded with the same professionalism she had shown throughout her legal career. But he still did not understand why. He did not know about the years she spent preparing for moments exactly like this, moments when character mattered more than recognition. He did not know about the judges, attorneys, and legal professionals who respected her work. He did not know that the woman standing quietly in front of him had been selected to lead the state's judicial system. The truth remained hidden, but the pieces were beginning to come together. A court employee looked again at the documents Olivia carried. A familiar name appeared. A connection began forming. The atmosphere inside the courthouse started changing in a way nobody could fully explain yet. Because sometimes the person who appears to have the least authority in a room is actually the person with the greatest responsibility. And soon, everyone inside that courtroom would discover that Olivia Bennett was not someone who needed permission to be there. She was someone the entire building was about to recognize. The atmosphere inside the state courthouse had changed, even though the people walking through the halls could not yet explain why. The morning began like any other day, with attorneys preparing for hearings, employees organizing documents, and visitors waiting for their scheduled appearances. But near the entrance, a quiet moment was unfolding that would soon reveal a much bigger truth. Olivia Bennett remained calm while Officer Daniel Whitmore continued to believe he was simply doing his job. He saw a woman who did not appear to have the authority he expected. He saw someone he believed needed to follow his instructions without question. What he did not see was the experience, knowledge, and dedication that had shaped her entire career. Olivia understood something that many people forgot. A courtroom was not just a room filled with rules. It was a place where human lives were affected by decisions. Every person who entered those doors deserved to be treated with fairness before their story was fully known. That belief guided her for more than 25 years in the legal system, and it guided her now. She continued holding her documents quietly, allowing the situation to unfold without turning it into a personal confrontation. Officer Whitmore interpreted her patience differently. He believed her calmness meant she was refusing to understand the seriousness of the situation. But the truth was the opposite. Olivia understood the seriousness better than anyone around her. She understood that moments like this revealed the character of everyone involved. The person with authority had a choice. They could use that authority to control others, or they could use it to create fairness. As the conversation continued, a few people nearby began paying closer attention. Something about Olivia's confidence stood out. She did not behave like someone who was confused or lost. She carried herself like someone who had spent years making important decisions. There was a quiet professionalism in the way she spoke, the way she listened, and the way she responded. These details were small, but they told a larger story. Officer Whitmore still focused on what he believed he knew. He did not know that Olivia had spent years inside courtrooms defending the very principles he believed he was protecting. He did not know that she had worked alongside respected legal professionals across the state. He did not know that her name was about to become one of the most recognized names in the entire judicial system. Imagine standing in a place built around justice while someone decides your place there before understanding who you are. Imagine having the power to reveal everything instantly, but choosing patience because the lesson matters more than the outcome. That was Olivia Bennett. She was not waiting for permission. She was waiting for the truth to arrive. A court employee quietly reviewed the information connected to Olivia's documents again. This time, the details became clearer. The name that appeared was not unfamiliar. It was connected to an announcement that had recently been shared throughout the state's legal community. A new chief judge had been appointed, a leader chosen because of years of service, knowledge, and commitment to fairness. The realization had not reached everyone yet, but the first pieces of the truth were finally coming together. Officer Whitmore still believed he was dealing with someone who did not belong in the courtroom. He did not realize that the person he was questioning was not an outsider. She was the future leader of the very system he represented. The truth hidden inside the courthouse was beginning to surface, but Olivia Bennet remained completely unaware of how quickly the situation was changing around her. She continued standing with the same calm expression she had carried since she entered the building. She was not waiting for recognition. She was not looking for an apology. She was simply allowing the moment to reveal what it needed to reveal. Across from her, Officer Daniel Whitmore still believed he understood the situation. He believed he was protecting the order of the courtroom, but he had not yet realized that the greatest test of authority was not how someone enforced rules. It was how they treated people when they believed nobody important was watching. A court employee quietly reviewed the information connected to Olivia's documents one more time. The name became impossible to ignore. Olivia Bennet. The same name that appeared in recent announcements throughout the state's legal community. The same name connected to the appointment of the new chief judge. The realization moved slowly at first. A person reading the document looked again, making sure there was no mistake. This was not simply another visitor. This was not someone who had accidentally entered the wrong area. This was the woman selected to lead the state's highest judicial responsibilities. The atmosphere inside the courthouse began to shift. The people nearby started understanding that the situation was not what it appeared to be. The woman Officer Whitmore believed did not belong was actually someone whose entire career had been built around protecting the very institution they were standing inside. Olivia noticed the change around her, but she did not allow it to change her behavior. She had always believed that respect was most meaningful when it was shown before a person's importance was known. Anyone could show respect after discovering a title. True character was revealed in the moments before that discovery. Officer Whitmore began to recognize that the situation was much larger than he first believed. The confidence he had shown earlier was replaced by uncertainty. The assumptions he had made were being challenged by facts he could no longer ignore. He had seen Olivia as someone who needed permission to enter the courtroom. Now he was beginning to understand that she represented the authority of that courtroom itself. Imagine standing in front of someone and judging their place in the world based only on what you can see. Imagine discovering moments later that the person you underestimated was someone whose decisions would affect the very system you serve. That was the lesson unfolding inside the courthouse. Olivia had the ability to reveal her identity from the beginning, but she chose not to because she understood something important. A title could change how people treated you, but it could not change who you already were. Her patience, her professionalism, and her dignity existed before anyone knew her position. As more people became aware of the truth, the room grew quieter. Not because anyone was afraid, but because everyone was beginning to understand the significance of the moment. The woman standing there was not someone who needed to prove she belonged. She had already earned that place through years of dedication. Officer Whitmore had entered the conversation believing he had the authority to decide who could remain in the courtroom. Now he faced a reality he never expected. The person he tried to remove was the person who would soon have the responsibility of guiding the entire state's justice system. And the next moment would reveal how the courtroom responded when the truth was finally impossible to ignore. The courtroom became silent as the reality of Olivia Bennet's identity finally reached everyone inside the building. The same woman who had been questioned at the entrance was now recognized as the person chosen to lead the state's judicial system. But even in that moment, Olivia remained exactly the same. She did not change her posture. She did not raise her voice. She did not use her new position as a weapon against anyone. Her greatest strength was not the title attached to her name. It was the character she had built long before anyone knew that title existed. Officer Daniel Whitmore stood quietly as the truth became clear. The confidence he carried earlier began to disappear, replaced by the realization that the situation was far different from what he believed. He had looked at Olivia and decided what he thought she represented. He had seen a person he believed needed to follow his instructions. But now he understood that the woman in front of him represented the very principles he was supposed to respect. Olivia Bennet was the new chief judge of the state. She was not someone who had entered the courthouse by mistake. She was someone whose career had been dedicated to understanding the law, protecting fairness, and ensuring that every person received a proper opportunity to be heard. For more than 25 years, Olivia had worked through countless legal challenges. She had studied complex cases, listened to different perspectives, and made decisions where patience and wisdom mattered. She knew that justice was not created by the loudest person in the room. It was created by people willing to listen before deciding. That was why she never reacted with anger during the encounter. She understood that the moment revealed something important about everyone involved. Officer Whitmore had to face the difference between authority and responsibility. Having the ability to give instructions did not automatically mean having the wisdom to use that authority correctly. A position could provide control, but only character could create trust. Around the courthouse, people began quietly discussing what had happened. The story was not spreading because Olivia wanted attention. She had never sought recognition through her position. It spread because the moment represented something larger. It showed how quickly assumptions could influence decisions and how important it was for people in positions of power to remember the humanity of those they encountered. Imagine having the ability to reveal your identity immediately and end every question in seconds. Imagine choosing not to because you want people to learn something deeper than simply who you are. That was Olivia's decision. She wanted the lesson to be about fairness, not about status. She wanted people to understand that every person deserved respect before their achievements were discovered. Officer Whitmore now saw the situation differently. The woman he believed did not belong was actually the person responsible for protecting the integrity of the system he served. The courtroom that once seemed to question her presence was now forced to recognize the truth. But the most powerful part of the moment was not the discovery of her title. It was the way Olivia handled the misunderstanding before anyone knew her name. Because true leadership is revealed not when people know your position. It is revealed when they do not. The courtroom remained quiet after the truth about Olivia Bennett was revealed, but the silence carried a different meaning than before. It was no longer the silence of uncertainty. It was the silence of realization. Everyone inside the building was beginning to understand that the woman who had been questioned at the entrance was not someone who needed to prove she belonged. She had already earned her place through decades of dedication, discipline, and service to the law. Olivia stood in the same courtroom where she had been treated like an outsider, yet she showed no desire to make the moment about herself. She understood that a position of authority was not meant to create fear. It was meant to create trust. Officer Daniel Whitmore faced a moment of reflection that he never expected. The situation forced him to look beyond the assumptions that shaped his first impression. He had believed he was protecting the courtroom, but he began to understand that protecting justice required more than enforcing rules. It required fairness, patience, and the willingness to see people as they truly were. Olivia could have used the moment to criticize him publicly. She could have reminded everyone of her new position. She could have turned the situation into a demonstration of power. But that was not who she was. Throughout her legal career, she had learned that the purpose of authority was not to elevate one person above another. The purpose of authority was to serve others. That belief was why she chose a different response. She focused on the lesson rather than the embarrassment. She focused on improvement rather than blame. The people around the courthouse began reflecting on what had happened. Attorneys, employees, and visitors saw something important unfold. The greatest display of leadership did not come from a title being revealed. It came from the way Olivia handled the moments before anyone knew her title. Imagine being underestimated in a place where fairness is supposed to exist. Imagine having the power to instantly change the way everyone sees you, but choosing patience because the truth is more powerful than an argument. That was the example Olivia created. She showed that dignity does not disappear when others fail to recognize it. True character remains strong even when recognition arrives late. Officer Whitmore began to understand that the courthouse was not simply a building filled with rules and procedures. It was a place where every person deserved to be treated with respect. His role gave him responsibility, but responsibility required more than giving instructions. It required understanding the impact of every decision. The situation became a reminder that people in positions of authority are always being measured, not only by what they do when others agree with them, but by how they act when they are challenged. Olivia Bennet represented a different kind of power. It was not loud. It did not demand attention. It came from experience, wisdom, and a commitment to fairness. As the day continued, the courthouse returned to its normal rhythm, but the lesson remained. The woman who had been told she did not belong became the person everyone recognized as the future leader of the system itself. And the greatest change did not happen because her title was discovered. It happened because everyone finally understood the importance of looking beyond appearances before making a judgment. The days following the moment inside the courthouse brought a new perspective to everyone who had witnessed what happened. The building looked the same from the outside. The same doors opened each morning. The same halls carried the voices of attorneys, employees, and visitors searching for justice. But for those who knew the truth about Olivia Bennet, the meaning of that place had changed. The encounter became a reminder that justice was not only found in decisions made behind a bench. It was also found in the everyday choices people made when interacting with others. Olivia continued preparing for her new role as the state's chief judge with the same focus and dedication she had shown throughout her entire career. She did not allow the experience to distract her from her responsibility. She understood that leadership was not about reacting to every difficult moment. It was about using those moments to create something better. For more than 25 years, Olivia had studied the law and worked to understand the people affected by it. She knew that systems were made stronger when leaders were willing to listen, learn, and improve. That belief shaped the way she viewed what happened with Officer Daniel Whitmore. She did not see him only as the person who made a mistake. She saw a moment where an important lesson could be learned. Officer Whitmore also began reflecting on the encounter. The situation showed him something he had not considered before. Authority could place someone in a position to make decisions, but it also placed a responsibility on them to make those decisions carefully. A courtroom was not only about rules. It was about fairness. It was about recognizing the humanity of every person who entered those doors. The lesson was not that one person had power and another person did not. The lesson was that power without understanding could create mistakes, while responsibility could create change. Imagine having the ability to use a difficult moment as a chance to embarrass someone, but choosing instead to use it as a chance to teach. That was Olivia's approach. She understood that real justice was not about making another person feel powerless. It was about helping people understand how their choices affected others. The story of Olivia Bennet spread through the legal community because it represented something deeper than one encounter. It represented the importance of judging people by their actions and character rather than assumptions made at first sight. The people who heard about the situation remembered that the woman who appeared to have no authority was actually someone who carried one of the greatest responsibilities in the state's justice system. But Olivia's greatest achievement was not the title she received. It was the way she carried herself before anyone knew that title existed. She demonstrated that dignity does not depend on recognition. It exists even in moments when others fail to see it. As the courthouse continued moving forward, the lesson remained with everyone involved. Officer Whitmore learned that a position of authority required humility. Others learned that appearances could never reveal the complete story of a person's life. And Olivia continued forward knowing that the strongest form of leadership was not shown when people finally recognized your importance. It was shown when you continued doing what was right before anyone recognized you at all. Years later, the lesson from that day inside the state courthouse continued to represent something much greater than a single misunderstanding. The building where Olivia Bennet once stood quietly while being questioned became a symbol of a truth that extended far beyond one person and one moment. It reminded people that every individual carries a story that cannot be discovered by a quick glance, a first impression, or a simple assumption. Olivia continued her journey as the state's chief judge with the same values that guided her before anyone knew her title. She walked into her new position not looking for recognition, but carrying a responsibility she had prepared for her entire life. She understood that leadership was not measured by how many people knew your name. It was measured by how many people felt that the system worked fairly because of your decisions. Throughout her career, Olivia had witnessed countless situations where people entered courtrooms feeling unheard. She knew that, for many, a courthouse represented uncertainty. It represented a place where decisions could change lives. That was why she believed every person who entered those doors deserved patience, respect, and the opportunity to be understood. The encounter with Officer Daniel Whitmore became a powerful reminder of that belief. The most important part of the moment was not that Olivia was eventually recognized as the state's new chief judge. The most important part was that she showed the qualities of leadership before anyone knew who she was. She demonstrated that dignity does not come from a position. A position only reveals what a person chooses to do with their influence. Officer Whitmore also carried the memory of that day forward. The experience changed the way he viewed his role inside the courthouse. He learned that authority was not simply about giving directions or maintaining order. It was about understanding the responsibility that came with being trusted by the public. Every interaction mattered. Every decision mattered. Every person mattered. The lesson was not about one person winning and another person losing. It was about recognizing the importance of fairness before judgment. Imagine a courtroom where everyone waited to discover a person's title before deciding whether they deserved respect. Now imagine a world where respect was given first, simply because every person had value. That was the message Olivia carried into her leadership. She wanted a justice system where people were treated with dignity before their achievements were revealed. The story of Olivia Bennet remained powerful because it challenged a simple question. How many people are misunderstood because others only see what is visible? Her experience showed that the truth behind a person can be far greater than the assumptions placed upon them. A quiet woman entering a courthouse became a reminder that strength does not always announce itself. Sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one who remains calm when others fail to understand. In the end, the greatest lesson was not about a title, a position, or a moment of recognition. It was about character. It was about choosing fairness when judgment would be easier. It was about understanding that justice begins long before a decision is made. Because true leadership does not ask people to respect you after discovering your importance. True leadership earns respect through the way you treat people before they know who you are. And that was the legacy Olivia Bennet carried forward. The reminder that the person who appears ordinary may be carrying the very truth everyone else needs to learn.